Hello and welcome everyone. We're talking about the groups now. After you probably have seen the live reaction or the live event in general, now we can talk about the groups. And on screen I already filled in the expected spots here for each group. Talking about the playing teams just in a second, because if you're liking today's video, make sure to give it a like or subscribe to not miss out on any future Worlds content or discussion videos. Talking about the playing teams for a sec, because that's going to be interesting. We expect these 4 teams to make it out of planes. Obviously, some teams can be upset, some changes can happen, but that's what we're going to expect. Then, per rule, only 1 Chinese and 1 Korean team can be in each group. That means Hunger Life and LNG have to be in Group B and C, because, well, there's no other Korean team in Group C, and there's no other Chinese team in Group D. So these teams are set. Then, for the same rule, C9 can't be in the same group as Hunger Thieves, so they have to be in Group A. Also, Beyond Gaming then can only be in Group B, which is the last available group. Now that we have talked about that, let's talk about the Group A matchups. Damwon Kia vs FPX will obviously be the battle for first, with Damwon Kia and FPX being probably one of the few strongest pre-tournament favorites. And it's going to be exciting. I think in the end I can't say anything here. Like, Nagari versus Damwon Kia is going to be an exciting storyline. And like Season 10 versus Season 9 world champions, obviously super hyped. But I can't tell you who's going to be the better team. Obviously Doinb is on the tear right now, and Nagari also looks better, but so does Khan. Damwon Kia's bot lane has kind of found themselves after MSI, but the FPX bottom lane also is not on the same level as they were a few years ago. So both teams are not on their peak performance, but are looking very, very strong. They're still going to dominate the group. Then looking at Rogue here, and they're again fucked. They're again in the group with Damwon Kia and a strong LPL team. Last year it was Damwon Kia and JDG. JDG is not here. This time they have FPX. So we expect them to be near the bottom again. Maybe they can surprise, right? Best of ones is their territory. Maybe they can surprise and take a game, but we're not expecting that. Lastly, we have C9. C9 and Rogue will probably fight for pride for the 3rd seed. Yes, like Perkz and all that good shit can upset them. No, not like maybe against like RNG, maybe against GenG, maybe against PSG, on a very, very lucky day, maybe even against EDG, but not against FPX and Damwon Kia. FPX and Damwon Kia are both the teams that completely demolished G2 in the past. The Perkz factor doesn't do shit against these two. So it's like, don't expect C9 to do anything here just because they have Perkz and so on. Like, the Perkz factor in this case is a negative one. Then let's move to B, EDG, Hunger Thieves, T1 and Beyond Gaming. So first of all, EDG looks really good, but there are a few question marks, right? They lost to WE in the playoffs, and only at the finals they really popped off. Can we expect them to demolish everyone here in this group? I don't think so. Hunger Thieves looks like a very promising NA team, which is a strange thing to say, but makes sense if you look at the roster and see not a single NA player there. Treat Hunger Thieves more or less like an EU team, I think. And then, well, obviously there's T1, and you know how it goes. T1 will top the group, easy peasy, not losing a single game. But to be honest, I think it's going to be an interesting group. T1 obviously fighting with EDG for first, Hunger Thieves and Beyond. I don't think Beyond has great chances in this one. Obviously Beyond is not a bad team, but they didn't really get lucky. I think there could be a world where Beyond is 3rd and Hunger Thieves end up in 4th. Something like that could happen. But there's also a world where Hunger Thieves makes it out as 2nd and EDG is in 3rd. There's no world where T1 is in 1st, because that's just insanity. That can't happen. I think Hunger Thieves could have had a chance in other groups, like upsetting PSG, Mad Lions. I don't think that's too far-fetched. But against EDG, it's going to be tough. Obviously, Hunger Thieves T1 is no question. T1 obviously always wins. T1 or T100, obviously then T1 is number 1. Moving on to Group C, PSG, Fnatic, RNG and Hunger Life. So, it's going to be an explosive group. I think Group A and B, pretty set in stone. Who's going to make it out? The order, not so much, but who makes it out is pretty clear. Group C and D, we can't say the same thing. I think, PSG, Fnatic, RNG, Hunger Life. everyone here has a shot, right? RNG, if they get a good read on the patch again and like Gala and Ming completely pop off. Zhao is also getting good champions. Crying can be hidden with Malzahar Galio. I think they're looking good. They only played one best of 5 in the playoffs, so we can't really assess them too much recently, right? They demolished WE 3-0, that's the last one we saw. But also we have to say WE performed way worse than they did in the playoffs. Fnatic obviously always a wild card, and to be honest, so was PSG. PSG performing very good, taking RNG to 4 games and placing above C9 at MSI. And then last Worlds also placing over Rogue in the Damankia JDG PSG Rogue group. We shouldn't really underestimate them, and I think PSG, they were more dominant this year, so maybe they're better. You should assume that. Hanwha Life also a big question mark, you know it. They didn't perform all year long, but then suddenly 1 week in the regionals, they completely rose to the top. The series against T1 might have a few question marks because T1 probably didn't prepare for Hanwha Life. They probably prepared for Nongchen, and then they suddenly had to play Hanwha Life. In the end, I think Hanwha Life has the potential to do well here. So on paper, obviously, Hanwha Life and RNG as favorites because, well, they're from LCK LPL, but it wouldn't be the first time that RNG is being upset by PSG or Fnatic. I mean, PSG won against RNG in the groups of MSI, so yeah, that surely can happen. And Hanwha Life, it's a complete coin toss, dice toss, whatever, if they're going to show up at least. And in the first place, if they're already making it 2 groups, right? So yeah, I can't really say anything. So what I want as Hanwha Life PSG, well, we're probably going to get is, I could see RNG Fnatic. I could see that, right? I could see Hanwha Life getting upset here and so on. I still think Chovy could smash everyone here in laning phase. But the thing is, RNG had success with just putting Crying on these Crone champions, right? Galio and Malzahar. And then, have fun. And then here coming to the last group, Group D, Mad, GenG, TL, and probably Liling Gaming, LNG. So Freak mentioned that TL has a chance to win this group, and well, maybe. TL has good players in most positions, but the thing is, starting with Mad versus GenG, I think this is a very bad matchup for Mad. So people say Mad plays super explosive and will stomp GenG. The thing is, that's not really true. Mad starts games very slowly, and then they start to make plays and punish over aggressions that usually happen in the LEC in the mid game. Then they get back into the game with gold leads, and well, with more scaling champions, they usually then win later game team fights. Not always, but that's one of the most reliable strategies. And let's envision that against GenG. So falling behind early against GenG and then trying to come back in the mid and late game against a team that's always been doing the same thing, falling behind early and then, or staying neutral early and then just waiting and scaling and then getting on the ruler bus and winning late game team fights. I think GenG does the same thing Mad does, or has the same idea, but just better. Mad dies too much and then they try to crawl back. Obviously Mad can also play a bit more explosive. We saw that at MSI where they weren't falling behind early too much, but well, their summer performance was a bit lackluster in the early game department. That could be a hurdle against GenG if they play the explosive style from MSI. Mad could take this, but I'm not expecting that. I think playing at the world stage and having so much responsibility for the region and so on, I think that pressure could get to Mad's heads. Obviously GenG, if they lose a game against TL or something and then they're tilted and then they had to play Mad the next day or something, that could also be an issue for GenG, obviously the most tilting team in the entire world. So yeah, I think Mad GenG, that's going to be super interesting because I'm not sure which Mad will show up, and I'm not sure if GenG can hold out against a very aggressive Mad. Then throwing TL into the mix, but a weaker bot side than GenG in all cases. And mid lane matchup, I still think BDD is the better one out of all the 3 mid laners there, but it's a bit more competitive. So I think TL is a step behind Mad and GenG here in this group, but certainly, as I said, Mad and GenG, they're a bit performance dependent, right? And I think TL can upset. It's entirely possible. The only thing we always have to remember is that Mad and TL have the best of 1 advantage, right? They're only playing best of 1s all year, so they have more cheesy strategies to win a single game than LCK and LPL. And coming to the LPL here with LNG as the potentially final team, and I think LNG actually can be quite favorable in this position. I think their top side, Ale is the strongest top laner in the group. The jungler or Tarzan, obviously the strongest jungler. Viper. Mid lane, Icon, and then the bot lane, Light and Iwandi. I think that's where they could run into a few issues, but they have proven again and again in the regular split and in the playoffs that they can hold out and that they can then perform in late game team fights. And yeah, overall, I think LNG are the most consistent team, right? They're always showing the same thing, and as such, yeah, I'm quite confident in them showing up with the same level of play. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see LNG in first and then GenG or Mad in second. I still think like TL has a chance, but I don't think that's super realistic. I think TL will end up in fourth, Mad probably in third, GenG in second, and LNG in first. That's what I predict here for this group. I think LNG looks really good, but obviously for C9, Beyond, Hungerlife, and LNG, we have to first assess their performance and their level in the play-in stage. And yeah, remembering last year, LGD came into play-ins, and LGD looked like a really, really good team, even for group stage level. And then they nearly didn't make it out of the play-in stage, right? Dropping to 1-3 in the groups, and then playing a tiebreaker for fourth. And yeah, then after that, they completely smashed everyone, didn't lose a single game in play-ins anymore. Winning both best of 5s 3-0. Yes, similar stories can happen here for Beyond, Hungerlife, LNG, and obviously also C9. So it's not completely set that these 4 teams will represent these groups, but the thing is Hungerlife can only be in Group C and LNG can only be in Group D. That says set. If either of these 2 teams doesn't make it out, C9 obviously can go in Group A or C, right? They can't go in Group B or D because of Hunger Thieves TL. And for Beyond, they can't only go in the group with PSG, which is C. So in that case, these last seats are not completely set in stone, only these 2 here. If they do make it out. If they do make it out, these are 100% confirmed. So that's it with the groups discussion and prediction here a bit. I think we can be excited for good competition in Group A for down 1 tier FPX. Group B can be a bit spicy, but I think that's also a bit set. But EDG T1 will be a showing of a great rivalry, already going back I think like 7 years. Group C and D will be very, very competitive, and I think that will be very exciting to see. Yeah, Edges out on top, probably going to be a bit tilted in the end. And then also for Group A and B, the second seed will also be super, super strong. So yeah, the first seed in Group C or D could face a very strong opponent. And if you like today's video, leave a like and subscribe to not miss out on future content and support little old me. But that's it for today. See you around. Bye.